I'm going to present styling Qt applications. I joined Toltec last year in 2007, and now I'm in the widget team, responsible of the style sheet style and some other stuff. Before that I was a KDE developer, so I have a huge Qt experience. So here is my agenda. First we will have a small introduction, then I will explain a little bit of the QStyle API. I have a little word on colors, and then I'll give a long shot on style sheets. So why do you want to make your own style? There are several good reasons for that. The basic idea behind QStyle is that you have the same look as other applications in the platform. You have a native look. For example, on a Mac, you have a look exactly like on Mac OS, and on Windows, it looks like Windows. But you probably don't want, if you are listening to the conference, you probably want to make your own style. So there are other good reasons for that. It's embedded application. You might need to have your own custom look. Be careful anyway to not be too custom, because if you are too custom, the user might be lost. So I'm going to give a little word about usability. So this is how a radio button looks in Windows, and this is how it looks in Motif. The user knows it's a radio button because he recognizes that pattern. On Motif, he knows this is a radio button also because it recognizes that pattern, even if they are very, very different. Now if you take an application, the radio button has to look as it looks on the platform in order to not confuse the user. If you look at those applications on KDE, you see that all applications have the same icons for the same context. Here, new, open, they are the same, so the user knows what he is doing, he recognizes the icon, he knows what he does. So please don't make bad style. Okay, another things, look at Petref's desktop. Petref is one of support engineer here at Toltec, and he has a black background. Some people might think it's ugly, but he likes it. He maybe think it consumes less power. This is not true, but the taste, the color, you cannot really, it's different for anyone. So Petref likes the color. Now, if you inside of this desktop put a white application, it will render wrong. So you have to be aware of the preference of the user. I also put handicap here because sometimes the user has bad eyes, configure big font, and he don't want the application to use small fonts because the designer of the application think it's more beautiful with small fonts, but we have to respect the preference of the user. So often no style is better than a bad style. So be careful when you design your style to not do those common mistakes. How painting works. So basically, the windowing system will give to Qt a signal saying, hey, I want to paint, and then Qt will use a backing store and use the paint and call each of the widget paint event. In that paint event, the widget is responsible to draw everything. How does it do that? It calls the style. Before, in Qt1 and in Qt2, there was a if Windows style do something, if Mac style do something, but it does not really scale. Now in Qt4, we create a style option which contains every option of the button. So it says if the button is pressed, if the button is hovered, everything is in the style option. So the style can draw the push button with this option. And then the style is responsible to do all the drawing. So here is all of the style in Qt. In Qt 4.5. So for example, you will see the Qt GTK style, which is new in Qt 4.5. But if you remove that, this is the style in Qt 4.4. We have a QStyleSheet style, which is a private API, so it's not exposed, but I will explain a little bit more about it later. So you can choose from one of all those styles. QStyle is basically an abstract class that do nothing, and all the common stuff are in common style. So if you are going to write your own style, you should at least inherit from common style, and you choose from all of these the one that is more appropriate. Because in order to make your style, you have to inherit from an existing style. Here, I choose to inherit from the Windows style, and then we have to re-implement all the drawing function. So here I just shown the implementation of drawn control. If, for example, I want to draw the Q push button differently, then I look for the element. If it's a push button, then I will draw it. And for all the rest, I call the base style, so the base style will paint everything else. Now I will explain a little bit more all the API, but not everything. It will be very fast. So when you paint a push button, you have the control element push button. A push button is divided in a button bevel, so this is the frame around the button, and the label. The label is the text. And optionally, if the button has the focus, there is a focus frame. The frame is itself composed in a default frame if the button is default, and in a menu indicator if the menu has an indicator. So, and this is the same for each every widget. You see that it's divided in several parts. So for example, if you want to style only the label, you can do it. So we have those drawing functions: draw primitive, draw control, draw complex control. There is a lot of them. I will not explain this in detail. Everything is in the documentation. Yeah. So let's say you know the size of the content. So this is the content, and the widget will have a size which is bigger. So there is a function size from content that will take as input the content size, and that will give the size of the whole widget. The style can also tell the position on each every subcontrol. So for example, a subcontrol will be that button in a scroll bar. This is a subcontrol. That position is used to make the test. So there is also a hit test function. So when you click on this stuff, the style is asked to know in which subcontrol we are, and if we are in this subcontrol, then we do the appropriate action. Okay. So there is two kinds of coordinate, the logical and the visual coordinate. What's the difference between two? So that's the logical coordinate and that's the visual coordinate. You might wonder what's the difference. There is none in this graphic because we are in left to right. But if we are in a right to left environment, those are the opposite way around. So right to left environment is when we are translating the Qt application in a language which use to write from right to left. So in English it's, and in almost all Latin language, it's from left to right. But in Arabic it's in right to left, so there are differences. You have to take care about it when you design your application. So that's why we have some function to switch from logical to visual coordinate. So style shipped with Qt4 should always be correct in that respect, but you should anyway test your application with the reverse command in order to see how the application renders in live right to left languages. Another useful things of the style is that you can give style hint. Style hints are used at runtime to change the behavior of an application. For example, on a Mac there is a size grip in the MDI window, but not on the other platforms. So in Mac, the Mac style will say to the widget, it has to draw that size grip. Another thing, for example, the menu. On some platform you have a scroll bar, on some other platform you have some up and down arrays on top and on bottom of the menu. That's a style hint. And there are a lot of style hints like that which control the behavior of the application depending on the style. There is also a function that returns a pixmap or an icon. So this is used in order to give a proper icon. For example, for open, you can ask for the standard open icon on the platform. So I can only recommend you to read the documentation. The documentation explains everything you have to know about how to make your own style. Now I will give you a little trick how to make proxy style. So the idea is that you want to change the appearance, let's say, of a Q push button, but only that. You want everything else to look as native as possible. So then you have to choose a style to inherit from. Which one will you choose? Will you do it with all the styles? No. So what we do, we have a kind of proxy style that draws the push button and that will delegate every other stuff to the native style. How does it work? So here I create my proxy style. It's exactly the same as before, as in the normal style, but I pass a base here, which will be stored there. And we will have to implement all the QStyle virtual function. And then when setting the style, we set the style for by passing the old style as parameters. Then in all the function we call the base style. So for example here we draw item pixmap painter, we will pass the function to the base style with all the parameters, and we will do the same for every function, but the function we want to change. So for here we want to change the appearance of a push button label. Then in draw control we check for push button label that element. If not, we will fall back to the base style. But this will not work. It's not enough. Why? Let's look at the implementation of QCommand style. So if you remember, a queue push button is composed of a button bevel and a button label. The queue command style will call draw control with the button label, with the button bevel and with the button label. Do you see the problem? So remember that first, if it was a CE push button, then in the previous function we had nothing to do, so we passed to the base style. The base style will draw, will then call draw control with the push button bevel. This is a virtual function, but this is a virtual function of the native style. So it means that it will be the draw control function of the native style, let's say plastic style. And we have no way to hook it. So the only solution is to copy that huge code into our proxy style. That's a little bit unfortunate, but that's why it is. So there are some little problem about queue style. First, it's in order to make a queue style, you have to write C++ code. And often, C++ programmers are not really good at design. And the opposite way around. The designers are not really good at coding C++. Also, we have to compile all the time. And that takes time because you compile, then you test, okay, this pixel should be more white, then you change the code, you compile again, then you visualize, that takes time. And doing simple stuff requires a lot of code. If you want just to change the appearance of a push button, of all push button, you have to write a lot of code. So the solution for that is style sheet. But before talking about style sheet, I will give a word about colors. So colors are represented by a queue palette. A queue palette contains all the colors of the platform. So the background of the windows, the text of the windows, the background of a line edit, for example, an alternate background that's useful for the list if you want to separate, then the colors of the text, and so on. This is important to always respect the palette. But if you want to change it, for example, you want to have a green push button, you can do it. You just take the palette, you change the button background to red, you change the text to black, and you set the palette, and that should work. So do you recognize that application? This is Qt Designer, you should know it. It has a nice, colorful property editor. But do you remember Petref Desktop? Let's see how it looks on Petref Desktop. So here we see that we see nothing. It's impossible to read the text. Why? Because we forgot to change the text color. We assumed that the text color was black, which is not the case here. So we changed the background to be yellow, and the text, we didn't change it, so it's white and yellow, we can't read it. So be careful when designing your application, never assume that the background color is white or that the text color is black. It's not always the case. Another things to consider is blink colorness. Can you read this? I know that almost 10% of you guys that are watching to me cannot, because a little bit less of 10% of the males are colorblind. So while designing your application, make sure to not have some colors that colorblind couldn't read. So to summarize, we have to make sure that the text is always readable for everybody, and we should never assume that the background or the foreground color is something. If we set the background color, we have to set the foreground color. We cannot. So now I comes to the style sheet. So the style sheet is a solution to the complexity of QStyle. So the style sheet is inspired by web designing. If any of you knows web design, it's exactly the same. If you want to set a style sheet, you have three possibilities. Either you set a style sheet on a widget specifically, or you can set a style sheet for the whole application, or you can, while running the application, you can pass an argument, style sheet, and the style sheet. So how style sheet is implemented internally? Internally, this is a proxy style, as I explained. The style sheet style inherits from QWindows style and try to forward everything to the native style if possible. But we saw that it was not always possible to forward to the native style. Sometimes we have to re-implement the QCommand style to make sure that we can hook everything. Also, it's difficult to, for example, if you want a red push button, some teams with the background red, some style can do it, but some other cannot. So in order to work, we try to be smart enough, and then we detect, does the style support all those features? If yes, we let the style drawing it. If not, we draw ourselves. So here is the syntax. So I will make a little demo. So this is designer. I just create a new widget. I will set some buttons, a line edit or two, and put everything in a layout. Nice. And then I can right click to open the context menu and go to change style sheet. Here we are. And then let's say I want to change the color of the push button. Push. So background color pink. I should have a pink push button. Here it is. Or maybe if you want yellow. Can you see it? So that's great, because it applies immediately. Now you can set more than just color. You can also use gradient. So, for example, like this. Background. So I set a linear background as background. Here it is. So that's the power of the style sheet. So basically you say here what you want to style, and here you say, so you say we want to style a push button and have the background color of magenta. So how it works? So the selector, you can specify I want to color every push button. That will be for push button and all class that inherits from push button. So if I would have, say, QAbstract button, that will have been for QAbstract button and QPush button and QTool button and so on. I can match only for the class. So this will match only checkbox and not the class that are inherited from of an ID. So if I give the name food menu view to some menu view, that will match exactly that button. This will match both. No, this will match all the radio buttons that are embedded in a queue dialog. Or I can match on some label, on some types. So for example, only those which have text of that. So let's go back to the designer. Right. I will load another form. Okay, so here is a form of, so it consists just of few buttons, some slider, some icons embedded in some layouts. So that's really easy. So we can style it, change style sheet. Okay, so for example, I want to change the background of frame. I will use a gradient. I have some flags here, I don't know why, but it can just be used as template, Norwegian. And I have the background looking with a nice gradient. If I want to only, so let's command this. Now I want to apply a style only on the play button. I want it red. I can do it. The play button is called play button. Here we are. And interesting stuff, like in CSS, we can also specify a different style while the mouse is over the button. And the pseudo style can be used for many things, like say if a checkbox is checked, disabled, or if any widget has the focus, and so on. So, for example, I will. This will make the play button having being green when I pass the mouse over it. Another thing you may like is the background image. you have to pass an URL. So I will just copy well, let's try with a new form. I want a push button. Change style sheet. What doesn't work? Or maybe it works, it's just that... Okay. Could we... Okay. The box model. And so each widget is seen for the style sheet as a box. It has a content, a padding, a border, a margin, and that's it. So in order to see it, I will put some button and line edit or label. Yeah, that's it. In a layout. So for the I will give a yellow background. A green border of 1 pixel. 1 pixel is too small, let's say 10 pixels. So what is the padding? You will see it if I set a padding of 0 pixel. Then look at this. It does not work. Okay, we need a spacer. So the padding is the space between the text and the border. So that was not working because the layout did not allow us to have a too small button, but here we are. So if I set 20 pixels as padding, I have 20 pixels between the text and the button and the border in each direction. I can give a different padding for the vertical padding and the horizontal padding by just specifying the vertical padding and the horizontal padding. I can even specify for the 20 pixels on the top, 10 pixels on the right, 3 pixels on the bottom, and 1 pixel on the left. so it goes clockwise from the top. And the margin is the space between the element, margin. So I added a margin. The border can have a width, a style. The style specify if it's solid, dashed, or nothing. So, for example, here it's solid, but if I say dashed, it's some dash. Better. The width is the size of the border, and the color is its color. You can also specify some minimum width or height of your widget. The background can be an image. Background repeat specify if you want the pattern to be repeat a lot of time, or if you want it to scale. Background position says the position of the offsets of the background. And you have some other property. You can use border radius to provide rounded colors. So if I go back there, I put yellow border to the button, and I say you maybe haven't seen, but there is no some radius. I can. Here we are. Red is better. So that's nice. Border image is another useful feature. So basically, if you set this image as border image, it's like if it's split in 9 parts. The corner, the edge, and the centrum. So what happens if, for example, we have a Q-push button which is called my button? What rules will apply in that case? Will the button be green or red? The style sheet specification specify that. First, if you specify an ID, this is the ID. If you specify that the button has a pseudo class, then it's the pseudo class. Then if you specify some other attribute in that order. If two rules have the same weight, the latter wins. So for example, in that case, we have a push button which is an abstract button, but those two rules have the same weight, so the color will be green. But this one will also apply, and they will be merged, so the background will be blue and the color will be green. If the rules were inverted, then the color will be green. No, the color would be red. So the subcontrol, those are part of the complex widget. If you take a Q combo box, it has like an arrow, you can click on it, that's a subcontrol. The menu indicator is a subcontrol. So here we can change the appearance of a menu indicator by specifying an image. Subcontrol are exactly the same as normal element. They respect the box model. You can change the property of the everything. I thought I removed this line. So the positioning of subcontrol. You can specify where the subcontrol is positioned from. So this is better explained with a picture. So let's say that this is your combo box with some padding, border and margin, but whatever. And this is your button, and this is the menu arrow. If we set a position relative of top 5 pixel and left 5 pixel, we set the position, the subcontrol origin to the content. Then we will have the subcontrol which is positioned just 5 pixel and 3 pixel, 5 pixel and 4 pixel relatively to its normal content. Now if we set the position absolute, we set both the width, the top, the height and the bottom, then the position will be set up from the top will be 5 pixel, the height will be 2 pixel, the bottom will be 5 pixel, and the width will be 20 pixels. So we have specified exactly where the subcontrol will be. You can modify any property. So let's go back to the example. So for example, we have that is a label, the playing label. I can set Q property text to be something like text, and then the text change. So this is powerful. A feature I talked about but not shown yet is that I can use dynamic property. So for example, the pause button, I will create a dynamic property of string. So I will give the name prop, and it's pause or pause. So then all we get that have the prop property equal a pause will now have a border color blue. Let's look. The pause button is now blue. So that means that you can set any property to your button and use that property in order to match the button. Yeah, so this is what I exactly shown. The only problem with that is that if while your application is running you change that property, the style will not be updated. You can customize any style hint or a lot of them with the style sheet, so you have a lot of Qt property that you can set. So what's new in Qt 4.5 regarding the style sheets? So style sheet will be finally supported on macOS. There was some issue with Qt 4.4 that are now fixed. A lot of bugs fixed. So now we have finally a good regression testing framework for style sheet. So there are a lot of, because there is a new, those of you that have already made style, I have noticed that sometimes some widget does not work with some property. So there are a lot of bug fixes in that respect. A lot of new property have been supported. That included some widget which was not possible to style before, which now are possible. I think about the scroll area, for example. There are a way to style more of it. Also, it was said that the style sheet was slow, especially in embedded. Now it's fast. There are a lot of improvements in speed. I even have a little benchmark to show you. So if I wrote a little benchmark, the benchmark start at a timer of 0, and each of this frame it changes the style sheet. So the widget contains lots. There is like 400 Q label. Each of the Q label has a different name, and each of as much as possible, so in a timer of 0 milliseconds, I change the application style sheet to a style sheet that I compute by setting a background color and a Q property text different for each widget. So here is the result with Qt 4.4. You see it's not that fast, it's almost 2 frames per second. If I hit the widget, it's still like 2.5 frames per second because style sheet was slow. Now in Qt 4.5 it's fast. 5 frames per second, and this is mainly because of the painting. Now if I hit the widget, the painting is not neglectable anymore. You can see that only the style sheet, then 12 frames per second. Okay, so thank you for your attention.